Hi! In my first video, I introduced you to the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram and gave you just enough information to be able to perform it correctly and competently in the Golden Dawn tradition. This time, I'm going to give you more information. We're going to talk about some details of practice to keep in mind now that you're familiar with the ritual itself. Then I'll cover the topic of visualizations, and finally, we'll talk about the standard use cases for the LBRP. In terms of practice, we'll start with the Kabbalistic cross and go from there. Now, note that while words other than divine and angelic names aren't generally vibrated in Golden Dawn magic, the Kabbalistic cross is a notable exception. Although the original manuscripts instruct only to say the words, today by tradition the words of the Kabbalistic cross are vibrated as well. Now note that the Kabbalistic cross is an equal-armed cross, not the well-known Christian Calvary cross. It also touches the right shoulder first, whereas the customary Christian gesture of crossing oneself begins with the left shoulder. Unlike the usual crossing gesture, this also isn't spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch. If you hit your testicles, you've gone too far. You're aiming for somewhere between the bottom of your sternum and your belly button. Keep those cross arms equal. Now when you're making the sign of silence, remember, you're not hushing somebody, so don't go shh. What you're doing with your hand is actually turning your palm toward your mouth, and then you are going to place your finger to your lips. So your thumb should be pointing to your left, not down. If your thumb is pointing down, you've got the wrong hand position. Now, it's been said before in my previous video, but be sure to close your pentagrams and to close the circle properly when you bring it back around to the center of the first pentagram that you traced in the east. It's better to have some overlap at the start and finish of a figure than to leave it unclosed, especially when you're talking about a banishing or another protective ritual. Now that we've gotten through those few minor quibbles about practice, we can talk about the matter of visualization. One thing that I will recommend before you start doing visualizations is to get your ritual actions and words down first. You don't want to be focusing so much on your visualizations that you forget what you're supposed to be doing. Now, note that pretty much all the visualization is a matter of tradition. There are some significant variations here. Visualization was never a part of the original writings on the LBRP when they were given to neophytes of the order. So feel free to experiment and see what works best for you. I'm going to take you through what works for me, and it's a pretty standard form. Standing facing east, close your eyes and imagine that you are in a vast sea of darkness. Far above your head, there is an infinitely small point of infinitely bright light. That point starts descending, closer and closer to you. When that ray of light has almost reached your head, reach your fingers up to touch it. Bring that ray down to your Keter center and vibrate Ata. As you vibrate Ata, see your Keter center filling with brilliant white light. Bring a ray of that light down to about the top of your sternum, or about partway between your sternum and your belly button, and vibrate Malchut. See that ray of light shooting down into the earth, rooting you and planting you in place, just as the infinite ray of light above your head continues to extend forever. Now bring your hand to your right shoulder and vibrate Vegabura, and as you do so, see a sphere filling with that brilliant white light again. Bring it to your left shoulder, vibrate Vegadula, and see again that sphere filling with brilliant white light. Then you're going to spread your arms and say Le'olam, and as you do so, see those rays of light between your shoulders rushing out to the edges of the universe, down and along your arms. You stand in the middle of a vast, infinite cross of light. When you trace the circle around the pentagrams, you should do so in the same brilliant white light. In Liber O, Aleister Crowley, an initiate of the original order, relates that the pentagrams should appear in flame. Rigardi elaborated on that and said that the pentagrams should be visualized as flaming figures of bluish-golden hue, similar to that produced by igniting methylated spirit. Now, there's been a somewhat ridiculous amount of discourse on this subject, but the bottom line is that whether you visualize the pentagrams as the blue of a gas jet flame, the golden color of a candle flame, or simply in a brilliant white light, do whatever works best for you. The core idea here is that the pentagram should be flaming ones. The specific order of that flame is less important. When I do the LBRP, what I do is trace the pentagrams in brilliant white light, and then as I use the sign of the Enterer and vibrate the god name appropriate to the quarter, I visualize that pentagram bursting into flame. When it comes to the invocation of the four archangels, I think there's probably more variation here when it comes to visualization than there is in any other area of the ritual. What I do personally is when I say, "Before me, Raphael," I imagine the Archangel Raphael rising from the clouds, wings spread wide, and a gust of wind blowing in my face from that direction. Raphael is clothed in robes of yellow and purple, the elemental colors of air. When I say, "Behind me, Gabriel," I imagine the Archangel Gabriel standing in front of a waterfall, clothed in robes of blue and orange, holding a cup, and I feel a spray of water from that waterfall coming at me from that quarter. As I say at my right hand, Michael, I imagine Michael in armor made of red and green, holding a flaming sword. And when I say at my left hand, Uriel, I imagine Uriel in robes of black, holding a sheaf or sheaves of wheat, and I feel and hear the sounds of the forest around me. As I say, "About me flame the pentagrams, and in the column shines a six-rayed star," I bring my attention back to the pentagrams and the circle, see them clearly and solidly in my mind, surrounding me in that flaming light. Now, before we go on, a final footnote about the invocation of the archangels. There are some that hold that when you're using the lesser invoking ritual of the pentagram, you should visualize the archangels as facing inward towards you, and when you're using the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, you should visualize the archangels facing outward and away from you. Personally, I don't find that this makes any difference, so feel free to do what you like. Again, this is all kind of by tradition, and there's a significant amount of variation, so do what works best for you. Now that we've covered visualization, let's move on to some of the uses of the LBRP. First, it literally grounds or earths you. This is primarily a grounding ritual. It's also used as a preliminary and concluding ceremony in every other Golden Dawn ritual. It serves the same purpose as a protective magic circle in the grimoires. Per Rigardi, it's also used to get rid of disturbing or obsessive thoughts and as an exercise in concentration, but these are kind of secondary. Grounding and protection and sweeping away the astral dust bunnies are the primary use cases. Back in the HOGD, my mentor used to say that it was like shaking the cosmic Etch-a-Sketch, whereas if you wanted a bug bomb, you would use the supreme banishing ritual of the pentagram. Personally, I find this to be a really good description. What you're doing is essentially clearing the air and creating a blank canvas for yourself to paint on. Perhaps because the LBRP has been so widely adapted, there's a tendency in modern culture to treat it as a sort of Swiss Army knife that can do more or less anything. The actual goals are wide-ranging but far more modest. The key things to remember here are that the LBRP is used as a banishing ritual to get rid of unwanted influences. It's used as a protective circle, similar to that created in the grimoires. And it's also used as a means of clearing the air astrally, shaking away the astral dust bunnies, sweeping the room, making everything clean for the working. Thanks for joining me in this video. I hope you found it informative. Next time, we're really going to dig into the weeds, and we'll talk about theory. After that video, I hope that you will know everything that you need to know about the LBRP, what's being done in it, and why. I look forward to next time. Take care.